Hi guys, this is Mike with TimeMojo.com, and I have another video review today of Mustang, who is playing 10 NL Zoom on PokerStars. Alright, so this first hand we get kings on the button, which is awesome, and we decide to raise, which is good. And we get called by a odd stack player on a tablet, so he's likely to fish. And then just a kind of unknown player in the big blind who looks to be a reg. So there's not much to say about this flop other than we need to bet. So our hero does bet about 2/3, which is fine. I'd probably bet a little bigger. And the fish ends up check calling us. And just a few thoughts about that. His range here is going to be really wide. So he can really have quite a few hands on this board, and this is a really encouraging card for his range because it makes it more likely for him to have like more draws now. So, you know, hands like 6-8 suited have more equity, so we absolutely need to bet. And our hero bets $1, which is fine. He could probably bet, you know, like $1.10, but I think that's okay. And the fish kind of like snap calls here. And my thoughts on that is, if he's snap calling this turn, he most likely just has like the middle bottom end of his range, like a combo draw or like a pair of sixes or a pair of sevens, or he could even have probably a couple of weak jacks. So that being said, this is not a good river. Not in the sense where I think he's going to have an ace, but it's bad because it's scary for him. So yeah, he can have a few ace-high flush draws in his range, but it's just very few. So we need to bet. And our hero does something here, which is probably a little not standard for all of you. He decides to bet $1.40 into this pot, which is about 40%. And I like this a lot. He's doing this because he's kind of just playing his range straight up, which is great because that means he's thinking about our villain's range here and what the board means. So he bets a small amount because he thinks he has a weak pair on this board, and there's two overcards to the main part of his range, and even a jack can't be happy with the call. So that being said, I actually think this size is probably a little too big. I think I'd bet something around $1 or maybe even like 99 cents so it's on sale. But just something around there. The villain ends up folding, which means he probably just had, you know, like a weak pair and a combo draw, but that's okay. I think the important thing to realize here is that our hero did bet small on the river, probably just not small enough. Alrighty, so in this hand, we have Queen 10 suited in the small blind, and we flat a under the gun min raise by what looks to be a fishy player. And we also get a call from the big blind, who is on a phone and has an odd stack, so he's likely a fishy or weaker player. On this flop, I think we absolutely need to lead. We flop pretty well for our hand. We flop second pair with a really good kicker. So, and there's a lot of draws our opponents can have, so we absolutely need to bet this flop for value. Unfortunately, our hero checks, and we get a min bet from the phone fish and a snap call from this guy. So instantly, that tells me that this guy can really have just the bottom middle of his range, just with like this quick call here. He would never just quickly call with a king or probably even like a strong 10. So his range is really going to be the bottom end. It could be anything. And this guy, the same goes for him. I mean, he looks like he could just be clicking buttons. So I definitely think we can absolutely have the best hand. So obviously we should call. I think even as played, I would probably raise just to take the lead here. And the results wouldn't be that much different from the flop, but you might actually get an extra 10 cents. So anyway, our hero just calls. And on this turn, our hero checks again, and the fish just bets a really small amount. Our hero just calls. And again, this is the problem about just like playing the check call game with a hand like ours. Like, if we had led the flop, we wouldn't be in this position right now. So, obviously, kind of the only thing we can do now is check call. You could check raise, but again, like, if you didn't do it on the flop, it's not really worth doing it now. So, we check call, and the flush card hits the river, and the villain just bets really small again. And we only have to win this bet about 20% of the time to be a break-even play. So I think it's probably worth a call. I think I've seen fish show up here just too often with just like random cards. And even if he's doing this all the way with like a 10, we beat a lot of 10s. So I think the top of his range is a king. And I mean, I don't need, like, he can have some flushes, but again, given how wide his calling range is pre and how connected this board is, I would not be surprised if we have the best hand here at least 30% of the time. So definitely call. Our hero mucks, but not a huge mistake, but definitely call next time. Alright, so this next hand, we get queens in the small blind. We raise, and then this loose, aggressive player calls us. So on this flop, the only thing I kind of really want you guys to take out from this hand is to understand that a loose, aggressive villain who calls in the big blind to a small blind raise is going to have a lot of hands on this board that are not a king, and not even like flush draws. So he's going to have a lot of hands that we beat. So we absolutely need to bet big on this flop. And this is the only mistake our hero really makes here, is he decides to go with a half pot bet here. And I think what's really funny is if our hero had king queen, he wouldn't have bet half pot. So it's kind of a failure to understand how wide your opponent's range is, and like how, like, you're missing value by not betting at least one BB more. So, and those like, I mean, I know it's just 10 cents at the stake, but one BB really adds up because this is a very common spot, and over the course of like 100,000 hands, it's gonna add up. So villain calls, and then our hero ends up betting a little more than half pot. And what really surprises me about the hero's half pot bet on the flop is if he's betting this turn again, he's doing so because he understands the fact that he's ahead of his range. So I think he probably was just like maybe being a little lazy or was deep in his session and kind of like didn't care. But again, those one BBs here and there really add up. So the player ends up folding on the turn, which is fine, but I really wish our hero could have extracted one extra dime out of him. Okay, this is going to be our last hand. So we have what's probably a fish who limps under the gun, and it's important to note his stack size here is only about 22 big blinds. Our hero decides to make a big 5x isolation raise, which I really like. So the fish ends up snap calling, and we totally whiffed this flop. But that's okay because it's very likely that he whiffed it as well. So our hero bets half pot here, which is kind of cool because in the previous hand I was talking about how betting half pot can be wrong. Well, here it's actually really good. Reason being is it sets us up for a pretty good turn size bluff for his stack, or if we hit. And what it also does is it kind of does what's necessary. I mean, we kind of just want him to fold. So if we bet 50 cents on this board versus like 65 cents, the fold range is kind of the same. So I think this is a really good size. And the fish just insta snap calls like really quickly. So before I've talked about how when somebody calls really quickly to a flop bet, they have the middle bottom end of his range. So in this case, I think the best card he could have here is a 7. So with that being said, I think this is just a really good turn to just like go all in. And I expect the fish to fold a lot. Another kind of cool thing is this is the rest of his stack. So if he's kind of one of those players who's just like on the table until he's out of money, He's probably going to wait for a better spot to lose it all, like just go all in pre on the next hand, which is a lot more exciting than making a call with just like a naked draw, or like if he has something like ace 2 here. So I think this is an awesome play. The fish ends up thinking and folds. Well, he folds. So yeah, I mean, I think that was an awesome play. So that's the video, guys. Hope you guys learned something. As usual, you can ask me questions below. And also make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel if you are watching this on YouTube. Thanks for watching, guys, and good luck.